At the white tablecloth steakhouse, William raised his wine glass with a smile that never touched his eyes.
Sandra, after 20 years, it's time for a graceful next chapter. Your role is eliminated, effective Friday.
Sandra's fork froze, but she knew something William didn't. She'd been his landlord for 6 years. 6 hours earlier, in her quiet apartment, Sandra Vance slipped a single-page document into her purse.
Uncle Charles, you left me more than a building. You left me leverage.
The document was the LLC ownership of an 8-story office tower and the ground-floor steakhouse. Driving through the city, she passed the glass and steel building she'd quietly owned since her uncle's death. In the lobby, the receptionist greeted her as usual, unaware of the storm gathering in Sandra's leather tote.
20 years, and they still think I'm just the office manager.
The anniversary lunch was hours away. William had no idea the power shift waiting in her purse.
She walked past the glass-walled conference room, catching the tail end of William's laugh.
Modernizing means leaner, younger. Sandra's been here 2 decades, but loyalty doesn't pay the rent.
Connor nodded too quickly, his smile plastic. Lena studied her tablet, saying nothing.
If we're talking efficiency, the cost structure would improve without her department.
3 months earlier, William had called Sandra into this very office, his tone thick with false concern.
You've earned a slow exit. Take the health benefits, spend time with family before a decision gets made for you.
She had nodded, thanked him, and started carrying the ownership papers in her bag every day since.
He thinks silence is weakness. He's never understood that waiting is not the same as surrender.
At her desk, Sandra smoothed her palm over the hidden document, the paper crisp against her fingertips.
Uncle Charles would have fired him the first time he smirked, but payback works better on a delay.
An hour before the lunch, William summoned her to his office with a curt message.
Sandra, take notes on the Morrison settlement. Connor, Lena, and I are finalizing terms.
He pointed to a chair against the wall, not the conference table. Connor hid a smirk behind his hand.
We wouldn't want to miss a single detail, would we?
20 years, and he still treats me like a temp. But today, I'm not the one taking the real notes.
She sat with her pen poised, her face a mask of compliance as the meeting droned on. After the meeting, she excused herself and rode the elevator down to the first floor. At the building manager's office, a door she rarely visited, she knocked once and entered. A sealed envelope exchanged hands. Inside, the notice read, "Lease will not be renewed effective 90 days from today."
Now I hold both keys, the deed and the eviction. Let him serve me his notice first.
Stepping into the steakhouse, the documents heavy in her purse, Sandra saw William wave with theatrical warmth.
There she is. Come, sit. We've been waiting to honor you properly. 20 years deserves recognition.
Connor and Lena had wine glasses already raised, their smiles calibrated to please the senior partner.
To Sandra, 2 decades of loyalty. You've certainly earned this send-off. Not everyone gets such a long run.
His eyes met Connor's, a silent signal. The future, unburdened, was arriving on schedule.
Effective Friday, your role is eliminated. The firm needs a fresh approach, and you don't fit the new model.
It's not a termination, it's a transition. Finally, time for all those things you've put off.
Lena's giggle was hollow. She stared at the tablecloth, unwilling to look up, her cheeks flushed. Sandra set her fork down with calm precision. The soft clink silenced the table.
Now I have my answer, and they have absolutely no idea what comes next. You've been planning this for a while, haven't you, William? The lunch, the toast, all theater.
It's a business decision. The firm is evolving. Nothing personal, but your role no longer fits the model.
And for someone who's given this firm 2 decades, what's the severance package? I assume there's some recognition.
2 weeks per standard policy. I know it seems small, but the partnership agreed.
2 weeks for 20 years. That's an interesting way to say thank you.
It's industry practice. Most firms would give just 1 week at your tenure. Honestly, you're lucky we're even offering that.
Sandra's eyes flicked to Connor. He looked away, his smugness wilting under her steady, patient gaze.
William, have you started the lease renewal negotiations? The current lease expires in 90 days.
That's not your concern anymore. The building owner will work with us. We've always had good relations.
I think it might be more my concern than you realize. Or the building owners.
Enough of this lease talk. I'll call the owner right now and put this nonsense to rest.
He dialed the after-hours line from memory, tapping the speaker icon with a theatrical finger. A voice crackled through the small speaker. The owner is aware of your lease and will be in touch.
Be in touch? I need a clear answer. What are the renewal terms? We've been here 20 years.
The line went silent for a moment before the manager replied, I can't comment further. A click, then nothing.
See? Nothing. Some junior manager with no authority. The lease will renew like it always has.
Sandra's lips curved in a ghost of a smile. She reached for her purse.
Poor Terrence. That must have been uncomfortable. But he gave you exactly what I asked.
Inside the leather bag, her fingers brushed the crisp edge of the ownership document.
Perhaps the new owner is more hands-on than you think, William. And maybe sitting closer than you'd like.
She drew a folded piece of paper from her purse, holding it between two fingers like a playing card.
My Uncle Charles was a real estate investor. He taught me that buildings aren't just steel and glass, they're leverage.
What does this have to do with anything, Sandra? We're not here for a family history lesson.
This building was his pride. He bought it in the 80s, renovated it himself, and kept every tenant happy.
William's eyes narrowed, his fingers drumming the table. Connor and Lena exchanged confused glances.
So it's an old asset. Ownership changed hands ages ago. What's your point?
6 years ago it changed. To someone who knows every corner of this building and every tenant in it.
She smoothed the paper with her thumb, its edges still tucked, its contents hidden.
Someone who understands when a tenant's loyalty has been repaid with a steak knife in the back.
A chill settled over the table. William's face hardened, but a flicker of unease crossed his eyes.
My uncle left his entire portfolio to a single heir, an heir who chose to stay invisible.
The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend the candle flames.
You know the owner? Personally?
Sandra gave a single nod, her smile a thin, knowing line.
This steakhouse, same LLC. The heir kept the staff, kept the menu, out of respect for what was built.
Enough riddles. I want a name. Who is the owner?
She unfolded the paper not fully, just enough to expose the crisp letterhead.
Read it for yourself, William. You sign the checks every month, you should recognize the name.
He snatched it, his eyes racing to the top line. The name he'd seen on every rent statement for 6 years. But the realization hadn't yet reached his eyes. The pieces were there, refusing to click.
Vance Commercial Holdings. So the owner is some Vance. What's that got to do with you?
He shook his head, the paper trembling in his grip. Across the table, Sandra's smile was small but sharp.
My last name is Vance. William. Uncle Charles shared it.
The table went deathly quiet. Connor's face paled. Lena pressed a hand over her mouth.
You?
I've owned this building for 6 years. Every rent check you signed went into an account I control. And the lease? It expires in 90 days. It will not be renewed.
She tapped the crisp document with one finger, the sound sharp in the silence. Connor's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. William's face drained of color. The wine glass in his hand tilted, a drop of red staining the white cloth.
You can't do this. We have a 20-year relationship. You owe us some loyalty.
You just ended that relationship at this table. 20 years, repaid in 2 sentences.
William's mouth moved, but only a croak emerged. His rehearsed authority had evaporated.
Sandra, please, this is a misunderstanding. We can renegotiate. What do you want?
Lena sat rigid, her knuckles white against the table's edge, unable to look away. Sandra rose, smoothing her blazer. From her purse, she drew a crisp bill and laid it beside the wine stain.
Lunch is on me. After all, I own the steakhouse too. Enjoy the rest of your meal.
She walked through the silent restaurant, past the frozen hostess, and into the afternoon light. Outside, a small, tight smile crossed her lips, the first genuine one in a year.
6 years of patience, worth every second.
For a full minute, William sat frozen, the wine stain spreading like a wound. Then his fist slammed the table, rattling silverware.
Get me Harris. Now. I need to know if this woman can legally do this.
Connor and Lena slipped toward the exit, their faces ashen, not daring to look back. In his corner office, William paced as his lawyer's voice crackled through the speakerphone.
There must be a loophole. She was my office manager. How can she own my building?
He tore open the lease files, fingers trembling, searching for a single flaw. There was none. He dialed Richard, Marcus, and Diana in rapid succession, demanding an emergency meeting. Each call was colder than the last. Richard's voice cut like a blade.
You fired Sandra without a partnership vote? This disaster is yours alone, William. Don't call again.
The line went dead. William stared at the silent phone, his empire reduced to a single shaking hand. That evening, Sandra's phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number, but she recognized the name on the display.
Sandra, it's Richard. I know you have every reason to hang up, but please give me 5 minutes.
An hour later, she sat in Richard's home office, surrounded by leather-bound books and the scent of pipe tobacco.
William kept us in the dark. I swear, we never voted for your termination. He acted alone. We'd been discussing leaving for months. Your action has forced our hand. Join us, Sandra. We'll start a new firm with you as a partner. You bring the building literally. We bring the clients.
Sandra's expression remained neutral, but inside, her uncle's words echoed louder than ever.
I'll think about it, Richard. Give me until tomorrow.
Later, in her apartment, she stood before her uncle's photograph, the weight of the offer pressing on her.
You were right, Charlie. Leverage is the only language they understand.
The next morning, Sandra met with her uncle's attorney to confirm the LLC's absolute control. He confirmed she could evict or renegotiate without legal challenge. Every card was hers to play. Back home, a new email from William filled her screen. Subject: a personal appeal. He pledged a doubled severance, a written apology, and a junior partnership stake if she'd reconsider the lease. She stared at it for 3 seconds, then deleted it with a flick of her finger. That afternoon, she dialed Richard. Her voice carried the calm of decision.
I'm in, Richard. But my terms are non-negotiable. The new firm gets the top 3 floors at a favorable lease. William can have the smallest office on the 3rd floor at full market rent.
We were hoping you'd say that. It's more than generous, Sandra.
She hung up, and for the first time in months, the walls of her apartment felt like they belonged to her. The next morning, Richard summoned the partners to the glass-walled boardroom without William.
We're forming a new firm. Sandra owns this building, and she's agreed to be our partner.
The new firm will be called Vance and Partners. Top 3 floors at a favorable lease.
The 2 senior partners exchanged a glance, then nodded. The vote was unanimous. Sandra felt no vengeance, only the quiet weight of validation after 20 years of being overlooked. Later that day, Sandra walked the familiar corridor to William's office for the final time. His assistant, a young man with a pale face, accepted the formal lease termination letter without a word. Through the frosted glass, she could see William's silhouette, hiding, not daring to come out.
He can't even face me now. That's a different kind of power.
She left the envelope on the assistant's desk and turned away, her footsteps echoing in the empty hall. By evening, a firm-wide email from William landed in every inbox. Subject: a new chapter. After careful consideration, I've decided to take early retirement. The firm's future is bright, and I step aside with pride. Sandra read it on her tablet in her apartment, a single, cold line forming between her brows.
Terrence, the first floor commercial lease, raise it by 40%. The building's prestige warrants it.
The steakhouse operator, startled but loyal to the owner of 6 years, agreed without argument. A week later, William's new solo practice opened on the 3rd floor, a cramped room with a single window facing a brick wall. The lease he signed matched the new steakhouse rate, 40% above what his old firm had paid.
This is extortion. She can't just.
His new landlord, a representative of the LLC, replied with precise practice neutrality. Mrs. Vance's terms are standard. If they don't suit, we can discuss alternative office space elsewhere. From her top floor window, Sandra could see the small, barred window below. She didn't smile. She simply nodded. A week later, the new firm's lobby buzzed with quiet celebration, a ribbon cutting, not a funeral.
I thank Richard and partners who saw the same future I did. Today, we open doors on our terms.
Connor and Lena stood near the back. Their apologies accepted. Their roles now junior, but their relief palpable. Richard clapped, his eyes crinkling, while the other 2 partners exchanged nods of approval. 2 floors below, William pressed his forehead to the cold glass, watching the small crowd on the street.
So that's what it looks like to be on the outside.
Sandra didn't look down. The building itself had already rewritten the hierarchy. That afternoon, she stood alone in her corner office, afternoon light carving the room into gold and shadow.
He wanted to erase me. Now he pays me rent. Some poems don't need a pen.
The firm's new letterhead, Vance and Partners, already hung outside. For the first time, her name was on the building. A week into the new firm, a plain envelope arrived in Sandra's mail, William's first rent check, now triple the old amount. She held it to the light, the ink crisp. The name of her LLC in the payee line.
3 times what he used to pay. And he has no choice.
Without ceremony, she endorsed the check over to a local charity supporting older workers facing age discrimination. The charity would never know the funds came from the man who'd fired her on her 20th anniversary. Later, she opened the lease agreement for the entire building, now under Vance and Partners, LLC. Her finger traced her uncle's original signature on the yellowed purchase document, framed on her credenza.
You taught me that buildings don't make power, people who know when to act do.
20 years of loyalty had been repaid not with gold, but with the power to write her own future. 6 months after the ribbon cutting, the steakhouse bore a new gold sign, the 20th floor in Art Deco letters. Sandra Vance hosted the legal community, her emerald blouse a quiet statement of confidence under the chandeliers.
She lifted her champagne flute, and the murmur of conversation died. To the people who see your worth long before the world ever catches up.
Richard, at her side, tipped his glass in a gesture older than words. The seat for William Holt remained deliberately, conspicuously vacant, a ghost at the feast. As the evening cooled, Sandra drifted to the panoramic window. The city spread at her feet. She traced her reflection in the glass, remembering the woman she'd been 6 years ago.
I was never just the office manager. I was always the foundation.
She stayed until the lights dimmed, the building humming beneath her, everything finally in its place. In the weeks that followed, Sandra's morning walk through the lobby became a quiet ritual of observation. One Tuesday, William Holt emerged from the elevator, just as she crossed the polished floor. For a split second, his gaze met hers, then slid to the floor like water finding a drain. He veered toward the exit without a word, his shoulders hunched against an invisible weight. Sandra barely broke stride. She gave a single unhurried nod, not to him, but to the moment. That evening, she sat alone in her corner office as the city lights began to flicker on.
She recalled Uncle Charles's voice, smoky and sure. Never let them see your cards until you've already won the hand. I played a long game, Charlie, but it was worth every year.
The building hummed softly. Outside, the city stretched on, indifferent to the quiet victory within. Everything was exactly as it should be. On a crisp autumn morning, Sandra drove to the quiet cemetery where Charles Vance had been laid to rest. She walked between the headstones, a small, smooth stone warm in her palm. At his grave, she knelt and placed the stone atop the marker, a tradition older than memory.
You gave me the building, Uncle Charles. But more than that, you gave me back myself.
She stayed there, the wind lifting her hair, the years settling around her like fallen leaves.
I didn't come for forgiveness. I know you'd have cheered every move. I came to say thank you.
No irony, no smirk. Just a truth that had waited 6 years to be spoken aloud. The cemetery lay still. The only sound the rustle of oak leaves skittering across the grass. The camera pulled back, leaving her a small figure framed by stone and sky. There was no triumph left to claim, only a quiet, earned peace. On the top floor, the brass nameplate Vance and Partners gleamed as the afternoon sun washed the corridor in gold. Inside Sandra's corner office was a sanctuary of order. Her desk polished, the framed photograph of Charles Vance beside the sleek monitor. The screen displayed a dashboard of her building's finances, every chart trending upward, every column green. On the wall, a scholarship certificate for office administration students hung in a new frame, a quiet tribute to where she started. She hadn't forgotten the woman who carried coffee and kept the calendars for 2 decades. In the end, Sandra didn't want revenge. She wanted the world to see what she had always known. That she was never just the office manager. She was the foundation on which everything was built. Her hand came to rest on the original lease document, the one that had changed everything. The paper lay still under her palm, its edges slightly curled from years of waiting. The screen held on the document a moment longer, its edges curled, the ink slightly faded. Slowly, the image began to dim, the light retreating inch by inch into shadow. For a full beat, there was only black, silent, patient, waiting. Then, in white letters against the darkness, a familiar phrase glowed softly. No moral, no epilogue, only an open space for the story to settle. The black dissolved, and the building returned, its glass shimmering in the golden light. Somewhere inside, a soft chime echoed through the marble lobby, clean and precise. An elevator door slid open onto a new floor, and the hum of the building continued. Outside, the city stretched on, indifferent to the small, quiet victory within. The screen faded to black for the last time, and the story found its rest.